Hello there, and welcome back to the channel. This review contains full spoilers for Daredevil Born Again. You have been warned. Let's go! My boy is back!
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Another two great episodes in my opinion. There's quite a bit to chew on here, so, let's go through each of the episodes individually. Okay, so personally, episode 5 is probably my favorite of the season so far. On its own, the episode is a pretty self-contained story about Matt trying to stop a bank heist. However, the placement fits quite nicely in the season. Up until now, Matt has been avoiding the call of Daredevil. This is obviously because of the trauma from Foggy's death, which we see him continue to struggle with. However, as corruption and crime continue to run rampant, he must return to being a vigilante. That's what these two episodes showed. What I especially liked about episode 5 is that Matt used his wit and intuition to fight off the bank robbers, rather than a traditional fight sequence. I mean, we do still get a bit of that. Talk about a nasty finisher. Anyways, I thought it was really interesting seeing Matt work as Daredevil without the costume and the fancy kicks. Daredevil isn't the costume, it's who Matt is. It's what he represents when he saves people. This episode fleshed out how Matt can deal with conflict outside of a martial arts setting, and I really appreciate that. By the way, I loved all the St. Patrick's references here. I haven't seen an episode themed around a holiday in a long time. That used to be like a really big thing shows did back in the day. You had your Christmas episodes or your Halloween episodes, sometimes your Valentine's Day episodes. It was pretty cool getting to see that again, especially, for St. Patrick's, one of the more lesser known holidays, if you will. It was just funny, seeing these Irish guys taking over the show and, all these jokes and references back to, St. Patrick's. So I thought it was great. Okay, so obviously the highlight of the episode was the pairing between Daredevil and Yusuf, aka Miss Marvel's dad. Now, I know I've given my fair share of complaints about Miss Marvel, and I think it's kind of fair to say that this is kind of a strange pairing between, Matt and her father of all characters. But Yusuf was one of my favorite parts of the Miss Marvel show. I really like the way the actor portrays the character. He's quite lighthearted and funny, but he can be serious when he needs to be. I loved the conversations he had with Matt. Nervously talking about his daughter, Matt calming him down. It was just a great interaction in my opinion. It was especially interesting to see at the end how Yusuf invited Daredevil to dinner. I'm curious if we'll see Miss Marvel by the end of the season, or potentially in season 2. Despite my thoughts on her show, I've really come to appreciate Kamala Khan, and I want to see her character done justice. Totally, she might be too cheesy for Born Again, but I honestly do want to see Matt and Miss Marvel meet, which isn't something I thought I'd say before this episode, but here we are. They could have done something super over the top with Miss Marvel's wacky powers clashing with Daredevil, but instead we got a very natural connection through Yusuf, and I really hope we see him again this season. Speaking of connections, bro, I was not expecting Jack from the Hawkeye show to be here. Given the context of the situation, it obviously made sense. I was just thrown back because I was not expecting him at all.
Who?
If you don't know who he is, he briefly dated Kate Bishop's mother. Kate Bishop, of course, is the protege of Hawkeye. I explained the whole fiasco with Kate's mom in my Everything You Need to Know video, so I highly recommend you check that out after this one. But in short, Kate believed Jack was the one dealing with Kingpin, when it was in fact her mother who was in the cahoots with Fisk. Now, at first, I thought the scene with Jack in Born Again was a possible plot hole because I was originally under the assumption he should have been more overtly angry given the events of the Hawkeye show. For one, we never actually see him confront Fisk, so we could just say he thought Eleanor was pulling the strings. And two, even if he did know, I think his cold reaction to Fisk asking for money actually does work quite well. Was it the smartest decision for Fisk to ask Jack, knowing Eleanor? I don't know, probably not, but he's a politician. He's got to do this stuff. And, clearly he doesn't even want to do this event. We'll talk about that later. But yeah. Anyways, I think connections to the wider universe like this and with Yusuf are the right way to connect things. They aren't overtly flashy cameos solely for the sake of fan service. These callbacks don't compromise the story or give cheap nostalgia bait. If you don't know who Jack or Ms. Marvel's dad is, I doubt you're gonna miss out on anything. It's a nice treat for those of us who have consumed all the content thus far. Alright, fully moving on to episode 6. We have finally seen the breaking point for Matt and Fisk. I've been very interested in this Muse storyline ever since that first Daredevil trailer dropped, and we've finally gotten it. Just to recap, White Tiger was originally trying to investigate the situation with Muse. However, due to the tussle he had with the cops, he got caught in jail and got kicked from the lot. So, obviously Muse has continued to create his murals. Okay, so I knew about his general backstory, but oh my gosh, actually seeing that play out was crazy. Over 60 bodies? Yeah, the fact every single mural we've seen thus far is at least a dead person or maybe a couple dead people. I mean, dude, like that's just crazy. I mean, again, it's one thing to kind of somewhat know about his backstory and maybe seeing a few comic panels on like some TikToks or something, but I mean, like actually seeing it play out, it was just crazy. What's weird about this storyline is that we have someone who is overtly against Kingpin. I mean, theoretically, he should be teaming up with Daredevil, but obviously he's murking people left and right for this paint, if you will. So that's no bueno. I'm curious if you'll have a conversation with Matt about all this. I'd love to see these two talk about moral philosophy, similar to Matt and the Punisher. Anyways, the stuff with Kingpin this episode was great as always. Seeing the Muse situation get the best of him was a great way to continue his arc. I loved the scene when Fisk was talking to the Punisher cops. I got chills. This is the type of power and manipulation I love seeing from Vincent D'Onofrio's performance. I can seriously see why these officers would overzealously side with Kingpin. Much like last episode with the hilarious "we built this city" bit, we see Fisk continue to struggle under the confines of being the mayor. It's all too much for him, and what better way for him to vent than to absolutely destroy Adam? Probably the best part of the episode was the end fight sequence. Again, we get a beautiful parallel between Daredevil and Kingpin. They have both succumbed to their more violent selves. Of course, while Matt uses his instincts for a force for good, Fisk uses that for evil. I really liked the editing here. I think some of the previous fights have been a bit too choppy for my taste, but I really enjoyed all the stunt work and the editing in this episode's fight. The way Matt hung Muse up on that ladder was actually crazy.
Good, Anakin, good. Kill him. Kill him now.
Given that Muse escaped, I'm curious to see how this storyline continues. Again, I'm hoping for a philosophical debate between the serial killer and Daredevil. I mean, I just think that would be really interesting to see. Overall, this has been a great season so far. I really have no big complaints. I guess the editing can be a bit choppy for some of the fights like I mentioned, and as of right now I still don't really care for Matt's new girlfriend, but other than that, I've been having a blast with every storyline this season. In terms of predictions and hopes for the final 3 episodes, I think the Muse storyline will probably wrap up next episode. Him escaping was the biggest loose end of episode 6. I only think it'd be natural to continue that storyline in episode 7. Episode 8 will very likely reintroduce the Punisher in some way. With both Muse and other vigilantes about, I think the actions of the anti-vigilante task force will force Frank out of hiding. They might be saving that fight from the trailer for the finale, but I could very well see that being an episode 8 thing. Then, in the season finale, I think we'll finally get that Daredevil and Kingpin matchup we've all been waiting for. I think that's inevitable. I'm still unsure how Fisk's tenure as mayor will play out. I don't think he'll step down or be forced out this season, but I also don't really know how they're going to close out or finish out that storyline in the end of this season in particular. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Crossing my fingers for Spider-Man or Kate Bishop, or maybe even Ms. Marvel. That would be pretty cool. But I think that's being a bit optimistic. But what did you think of these 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again? Did you love them? Did you hate them? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.